Give me a second.
Have we got enough councillors to be corporate?
No.
Oh, yes.
Councillor Hone is on holiday, but I don't know whether or not.
Councillor Platters, Tom's just arrived, basically. We're still waiting for Rebecca Webb as well.
Okay.
He'll be there. Okay. We are ready to, let me just confirm. Yeah, we are live. Yep. Over to you, Elizabeth.
Lovely, excellent. Bear with me. Let me just pull up my notes that we need for this. So good morning, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of the Joint Staff Consultative Committee. I'd obviously like to welcome members, officers and members of the public who are joining us virtually and might be viewing online or watching back on YouTube. Of course, it's a virtual meeting today and we're conducting it with members of the committee at various locations. Before the meeting starts, I'd like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to explain how proceedings will work and to confirm that members and officers are in attendance and that we can hear you all.
Thank you. Just bear with me. Just waiting for a few moments. Can I confirm the following members and officers are in attendance and can hear us? And we can hear them. Councillor Claire Strong.
Yes, I can hear
you. Councillor Elizabeth Dennis.
Yes, I'm here.
Councillor Raj Bakar. Councillor Tom Platter.
Yeah, I'm here, thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Webb.
Good morning, apologies for being late.
Thank you. Anthony Roach.
Good morning.
Dee Levitt.
Good morning.
And Lewis Franklin. Somewhere. Lewis, can you hear us at all? You're on mute at the moment. He is showing us there. Are there any other? Oh, and Susan Ledane. Sorry, Susan. Can you hear us?
Yes, yes.
Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, Lewis has just said he's got a few connection problems, so we'll bear with him a moment. Okay, members may request to speak using the raise hand function, and the same function will be used to vote. The chair will notify you when it is your turn to speak. Are there any questions before we start the meeting? Well, I will now hand over to the chair.
Thank you very much for that, Chanel. Right, so item number 1.
Apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Terry Hone and also from Debbie Eland. Do we have any other apologies that anyone's aware of? No, I'm seeing nobody indicate. Okie dokie. Right, so item number 2 is the minutes of the last meeting held on the 5th of July. Apologies, colleagues, I was at the LGA conference, so I will have to ask for somebody else who was at that meeting to propose those minutes as a true record. Councillor Strong.
I'm happy to propose because I was there.
Thank you very much. Councillor Plater, were you present and able to second?
Yeah, I believe I was, and I'll happily second.
Lovely, thank you very much. Is the committee generally happy to approve those minutes by consensus? Yeah, I'm seeing no dissent. Lovely. So item number 3, Chair's announcements. Obviously, this meeting is being audio and video recorded, and the recordings are going to be available via the Council's YouTube channel. Members are also reminded to make declarations of interest before any items, and the detailed reminder about this and speaking rights is set out under the Chair's announcements on the agenda. So, moving us onwards to item number 4, which is the Staff Consultation Forum. I've got Rebecca down to present those notes for us.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Okay, I will run through a few of the main points from the SCF notes, just to highlight there wasn't an August meeting, so there are just 2 sets of notes on this occasion. In the July meeting, there was an update on the gender pay gap. We are working on the 2023 gender pay gap analysis and action planning, and this will form part of an update at the next Jscc meeting. Meeting Free Friday was discussed, and this is an initiative to support effective meeting management and create free time for other work for our staff. In the July notes, we talked about a soft launch for internal meetings, and this has now become a full launch, with one of the main feedback loops being via SCF. And then also in the July notes, the point was raised about our social media job adverts following a suggestion from Councillor Strong at the last Jscc meeting, and that feedback's been taken on board for future adverts. I think that covers the main points from SCF. I'm happy to take any questions.
There we go. It doesn't help pressing the space bar when you've got the chat open, because that doesn't unmute you, it just types space. Right. I had one point that I might want to pick up from some of the notes, but I want to let colleagues go first. Councillor Strong.
Yes, it was just a query or question about staff that might be receiving. There was a note in there about abusive phone calls and that. Do we record all the calls that are taken by those people, particularly in customer services?
I believe the calls are recorded, yes.
I don't know, Dee might know, because she doesn't know, or they're not recorded.
I think Rebecca answered. I think we've got some delay on multiple lines, but Rebecca confirmed that all calls are recorded. And I'm assuming, Rebecca, that we hold those calls for a set period of time. And if there is an issue, we're able to go back and re-listen and provide appropriate support, etc.
And that's included for those staff that are working from home. Their calls are all recorded as well. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Great stuff. Dee.
Sorry, it's so long since I've used Zoom. From what I understand, all the calls are recorded that come into customer services or are made out of customer services. Other than that, if you drop if a call comes into customer services for planning, it would be recorded from the point that it's answered through to the point that it's answered in planning. And then it's over to the team that's accepting the call as to whether or not it's accepted. Okay.
Okay, thanks. That's interesting. Sorry, Louis, did you want to come in? Is your audio working?
It is now, thanks.
Yeah,
I think Dee's correct. Apart from benefits and council tax, I believe they they also have full recording now as well. So point to point. So when it comes into customer services, goes to them, the recording continues. I think other departments, they were looking at doing it for other departments. I'm not sure if they implemented that, because it was something that was discussed at SCF early this year, where they were looking to have all internal communications between customer services and other departments also recorded, and the recordings getting transferred over. I'm not sure if that was implemented, but that was something they were looking at implementing.
okay, thank you both. Right, so my little point that I had that I wanted to raise, it was just point 8, the building services and facilities update. And which note was this? It was the July meeting again. And I just sort of noted the comment around sanitary products and the honesty box. I regularly go around the women's toilets and do sort of restock those baskets from my own supply of things that I keep in my office specifically for this purpose. And we all know the impact that the cost of living crisis is having. We know that people that work in the council not immune to this, and I think we're all very aware of issues around period poverty as well. So I was slightly disappointed to see that there was a bit of pressure and almost a telling off being put in the minutes from facilities there. I appreciate, obviously, if people are supplying stuff and they need money in order to continue providing a service, that's fair enough. But there are those of us that are happy to also support other women and make sure that everybody has got access to sanitary products at the point that they need them, free of cost. Also bearing in mind that a lot of us don't carry cash anymore. So I just want to make sure that we are being a gender inclusive office and we are being sensitive to the needs of our staff and not seeking to cause undue embarrassment to anybody through sort of particular internal policies around buildings and facilities management. But that's my only comment or grump on the notes from these spaces. I'm going to assume, Dee, is that a legacy hand? Yeah, lovely. In that case, I shall pass over to Councillor Strong.
Yes, just another quick question, because you remind me on the building services, there was the comment in there about letting of the space of the third floor. That must admit that's about the first time I'd seen that we were now reletting. Does that just the third floor, or are we also letting out other floors in the building now as well? Anthony's got his hand up, so he's going to.
I'll bring Anthony in on that, I think.
So we've been letting the second floor for some time, and that arrangement continues. We had a very strong lead on a potential tenant, another public sector tenant, potentially looking to take a space, and we have been operating with the third floor not in use to see essentially whether the demand on office space was such that we could free up another floor permanently and let it out. As I said, we had very strong interest. We thought we were close to getting a deal agreed. That seems to have gone away. I'm not sure if it's entirely dead in the water, but that's obviously subject to negotiations that estates colleagues are carrying on. So yes, we thought we had a deal. If that one does fall through, I think we will actively look for an alternative tenant, because it does look like we can operate with that space not used by the council, and bearing in mind we get approximately £50,000 per year from the second floor. If we are able to find a letting for the third floor, then that would be helpful for our finances.
Right, thank you very much. Does anyone else have any questions on this item? No, right, I think we've covered everything off. Then I shall move us on to, I might have jumped an item on my agenda. No, I haven't. I'm jumping. Yes, I am. Item 5 is the information note from HR that Rebecca's got to present as well, please.
Councillor Dennis, can we just approve the 5 members' consensus, please? For item 4.
Yes, of course. If members are happy to approve those notes, can we show of hands, I guess? Yep, Councillor Strong, I can see. And I will assume Councillor Plater is somewhere as well.
He seems to have disappeared.
I think I've lost Councillor Plater from the
yeah, he's come back in now.
Oh, he
just
is.
let him back in. Sorry.
Excellent. I shall wait for him to appear and then recap.
Not least of which, because we need to remain correct.
Exactly. There we go. Councillor Plater's back. Right. So we were just about to approve by consensus the notes of the staff consultation forum. Are you happy to approve those, or do you have any points, Councillor Plater? Oh.
Yeah, sorry, I just had one. It was just for Anthony. On the lease of those floors, are there provisions put into those leases that allow the council to take back the floors if we needed to, in say an emergency, or if the need was required to reopen those office spaces for council employees?
Short answer is I don't know. I suspect probably not, because having that sort of a break clause wouldn't be particularly attractive for the tenant, who's obviously put money into relocating there. So I suspect not, but I can double check and get an answer to you. All
right, satisfied with that? Yeah, Good. Okay. In that case, members, can we approve the notes of these meetings by consensus? Yeah, I'm happy to approve, and I see Councillor Strong and Councillor Plater also approving. Great. So item number 5 is the HR update. Again from Rebecca, please.
Thank you, Chair. I'll run through some key points from the paper, starting with 3.2 and 3.3, which is our recruitment update. And as you'd expect, it continues to be a busier area of work for us. We're seeing an increase in applicants in comparison to previous years, and less posts not successfully filled. Although it is important to note that there are other vacancies that remain unfilled that haven't been advertised during this period. The changes to how we use our social media to attract candidates have supported this, with the new style advert highlighting key elements of the role or the benefits for working for the council, and encouraging our employees to share those adverts on all platforms. We've seen an increase in views on our website, on the job vacancies pages, and an increase in social media engagement. So that's a really positive sign. And the next steps will be to launch the changes to our jobs pages on the website. 3.4 covers our leavers data, which we monitor alongside our exit data. And any specific issues that are raised or concerns or positive feedback are discussed with managers. But in general terms, the feedback is showing that most of our leavers would recommend the council as an employer. So that's a good sign. Moving to 3.6, pay bargaining. We still await the 2023 pay award, but we do expect an update of some form following a meeting at the end of the month between the national employers and unions. 3.7 highlights a couple of the benefits that we've been working on, including the provision of flu vaccinations for employees that are not covered through the NHS. And 3.8 talks about an initiative called Learning Together. This is our reverse mentoring scheme that pairs members of the leadership team with less senior employees in the organisation, with a view to sharing views, giving different perspectives on various areas, including change, culture, and leadership at the council. The pilots worked really well, and we recently had a couple of video articles in Insight from the 2 that were taking part in that pilot. And we're now encouraging more volunteers, and we already have another pair that started working together. Moving to the update on our inclusion group in 3.10, the June group discussed the Halo Collective, race discrimination and microaggressions. So for those that don't know, the Halo Collective is a group that's campaigning against hair discrimination in schools and workplaces. And a microaggression is a statement or action of indirect, subtle or unintentional discrimination. There was a really valuable conversation, and an action plan has come from that, with proposals to leadership team covering a range of initiatives that continue to support our value of inclusion. And then finally, 3.11 covers absence. In general terms, it's a similar overall level compared to the previous 12 months, but you will see that there's a peak in August on long-term absence. And I've said before, we work closely with managers on all long-term absences. We're particularly mindful that several of these absences relate to stress, depression or anxiety. And there are a variety of methods that we use to ensure appropriate support in these cases. I'm happy to take any questions.
Right, thank you very much. Do you colleagues have any questions for Rebecca on the HR update? Yes, Councillor Strong.
Yes, I have to say I'm a little concerned when I looked at the sickness and the fact that it is relating to stress, depression and anxiety. That, as any employer, that would be a concern. And again, is this something that is highlighted in some of the staff forums that are run? And particularly, I mean, I know that there is the outreach that employees can use to actually, to get some telephone advice and help. But it's promoting that and promoting good help to support those staff so that they don't feel that they need to take absences for work, because often being in a good working environment, being with your colleagues, is something that actually helps people through some of those situations, rather than feeling more isolated at home if they were home workers.
Yes, absolutely. So there are various updates and articles on our intranet and in Insight for staff. So we signpost staff to external support, but also our internal employee assistance program. It's the kind of thing that we talk about all the time. I do think that it's important to note that although there may be some in there that are work related, it isn't necessarily work related. And you're right about people being in a work environment and that being good for them. And a lot of the conversations we have with staff and managers in that kind of situation is about making sure there's the support available, but also encouraging them back to work, to get back into that routine and that environment.
Yeah, thank you. I picked up on the mental health points as well. There is a organisation called, let me pull them back up, here we go, the Centre for Mental Health. So they run something called Mentally Healthier Councils Network. A lot of the work that they do is very much outward looking and looking at how local government policies can impact on positive mental health outcomes within the wider communities. But they also have now started doing an inward looking piece of work as well around supporting counsellors and supporting officers. So if we are starting to see an uptick in that trend, as well as obviously the usual HR stuff of signposting people through to the employee assistance program and making sure that we have got mental health first aid aiders on premises that can provide support to colleagues as well, it might well be worth seeing what other additional support is out there and making sure that we are flagging all of the possible places where people can find help and support, because this is, you know, we are in the business of people, and doing this job can get incredibly stressful from time to time, especially when we've all got issues that we have to deal with outside of the workplace as well. It can feel for some staff like your work follows you home almost. So I just want to make sure that we are making sure that we're fully linked in and giving everybody the help and support that they need to deal with challenges. I know Anthony's hand went up while Claire was speaking, and I feel like Rebecca's got response points as well. Anthony, is it on this?
It is, yeah. I was just going to absolutely echo the concern. And it's something we need to keep a close eye on. I was just going to mention that Rebecca and team are currently working on a staff survey, which will be going out at some point, hopefully reasonably soon. And a big part of that will be around well-being. So just trying to get a sense of how people are feeling, because clearly there is a level before someone goes off on long-term sick, where if you can identify there's an issue, you might be able to intervene earlier and therefore prevent them getting to that point. And that's one of the key things we want to try and identify and understand.
Yeah, brilliant. And Rebecca?
Yes, I was going to mention the survey and mental health first aiders, which we have in place, but also the importance of getting managers in the right place to be able to respond to staff in a timely manner. We might not, as an HR team, be made aware until the sickness absence starts. So it's about that timeliness. We do have e-learning as well around mental health provided by Mind. So there's a piece for staff, but there's also a piece for management there as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you very much. Does anyone else have questions on the HR update?
Okie dokie, I am seeing
Nobody indicate, so I will go back to my script and make sure I've not forgotten to check for consensus on this. There we go. Right, no vote is required on this. Excellent. So if we're all satisfied with the update and feeling very informed about HR matters, I shall move us on to item number 6, which is a discussion paper on employee engagement in a hybrid working environment. So again, Rebecca, do you want to give us the key lines from that paper, and then we can have a conversation around it?
Of course. So employee engagement is the emotional and professional connection employees feel towards their organisation, colleagues and work. And high engagement leads to increased job satisfaction, performance, employee retention, and is a reflection of the overall positive employee experience. Hybrid working can make the informal engagement, that kind of regular coincidental water cooler piece, a lot less likely. And so our managers have worked with their teams to find ways to engage through other methods. So that might include hybrid or online meetings like this for one-to-ones, for wellbeing check-ins, for formal team meetings. We have hybrid meetings for our staff consultation forum, our inclusion group and our staff briefings. So that really ensures that everybody can take part. We have social events outside of work. We use the Teams chat function. I spoke earlier about learning together, the reverse mentoring, and that can happen in person or online. So the key elements of engagement are leadership, management, integrity, and employee voice. So in practice, this means visible leadership that communicates a vision for the future. So this would include things like our staff briefings and SCF, and our personal development days, especially those with a theme that are linked to services or values. Line management with skills of engagement. So this is about ensuring effective one-to-ones and team meetings take place with the opportunity for staff to be heard and listened to, and that support and development for managers to ensure that they're effective and understand our values. Maintaining integrity and upholding North Hart's values. So this includes things like continued communications on our values, our RPR framework, which enables discussions on our values, and recognising employees for excellent work in line with our values as part of the Staff Recognition Awards, and ensuring everyone has a voice. So this might include things like Ask Anthony sessions that we have at our staff briefings, ongoing work with SCF and staff surveys. So looking to the future, we all know the importance of hybrid working as part of flexible working, and technology allows us to effectively support engagement in that hybrid environment. The comms team are working on developing SharePoint, and we're planning online staff surveys in the coming months. And there is a balance to be struck between the face-to-face and virtual engagement, and it's about selecting the appropriate choice of communication or engagement depending on the people and the circumstances.
Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So I think I'll kick us off, because the one thing that I don't think is sort of covered in the introductory notes to this is how we actually measure engagement and sort of keep on top and make sure that people are genuinely engaged, because with hybrid working, there's a new form of digital presenteeism that many sort of workers can slip into. It's very easy to open the laptop and have Teams open and have Outlook going and make it look like you're doing stuff, but actually you're not necessarily completely engaged, or there might be something going on beneath the surface. What tools and empowerment is there for managers to make sure that staff genuinely are supported and feel engaged and able to do their jobs?
Okay, so I would say that there's a focus on outputs rather than that presenteeism, and that's been the case and should be the case across being in the office or being at home and working. And so managers are encouraged to look at that through the RPRs rather than a focus on the time spent and the time being present and online. And we encourage managers to have regular check-ins. So of course there's the one-to-ones and the RPRs and team meetings, but it's that consideration around people being on their own, potentially at home, and making sure that we think of each individual within the team and checking in with them. With regards to engagement, when we carry out surveys, we get we can measure the number of people that have responded. And I think as we move forward, SharePoint will allow us to better measure engagement. So things like insight, we're able to see how many people have read that message. We can see how many people have come to the staff briefing. It's that kind of picture that will help us develop a bigger picture on how engaged staff are.
Okay, great. I will hold and let colleagues come up with comments or discussion points. Or else I shall make some more up. And sort of thinking about the kitchen cooler, the water cooler type conversations that all of us have lost with this shift to hybrid working or working remotely a lot of the time. What sort of tactics have been put in place to help facilitate those kind of organic conversations and to make sure that the staff that used to, say, have a query and walk over to somebody else's desk to find the answer have still got access to a digital version of those kind of conversations?
I think the Teams chat that we have works really well for that kind of quick question and answer kind of thing. What it doesn't cover off is the coincidental stuff. So where you might pick up on something from being in the office, and that's where the work together meetings that I talked about can really help. The HR team, and I know other teams do this, have a catch up weekly where we get together and we spend maybe 25 minutes talking about key things, and that brings everyone together virtually and sometimes face to face, so you don't miss out on that kind of thing. And then there's lots of cross team working. So Teams allows you to have groups of people, teams basically on Teams, so they can communicate either online like this or through messaging. So all of that is being looked at, and I know that IT are running a set of kind of drop-ins and information providing around how we can better use the technology that we have to increase communications and engagement.
Great, thank you. I've got some hands up now. So Councillor Strong.
Yes, thank you. I think, yes, I get it. And again, one of the key areas you have to focus on is when you get new employers in as well, because team members might know each other and can do those remote chats or whatever, and not feel that it embarrassed, if you like, by asking a question that they don't know the answer to. And it's when you're not in an office environment, when somebody comes in, if they're then working a lot remotely or are in those virtual meetings, it's how do you get those people to actually feel they become a member of that team and that they can contribute into it and get out of it, particularly if it's somebody who's newer, less experienced and needs to be, if you like, getting those experience, getting that interaction with their co-employers. I did note, I think it's on staff, that that you're trying to do a lot of work and encourage sort of outside meetings and socializing, just to break down those barriers between employees to get that mix of involvement of teams together. I just wondered whether or not that was something that is working, is beneficial, and employees are using that a lot. As I said, and you said it is, it's difficult when you are not to confuse sort of virtual working with hybrid working.
Yeah, so that's the point I was going to make. What we're talking about here is hybrid, and so there is a concerted effort for people to be in the office. I can speak for my team and say that there's often a conversation the week before about which days people are going to be in the office the next week, and then we try to align that so you do get that face-to-face communication and team building as well. When we have newer members of staff, managers are encouraged to be available, and team members are encouraged to be more available for a newer member of staff through the induction. And that especially applies to our apprentices as well. So they get that support. Of course, it's still available online, but they get that face-to-face communication and direction as well. The social stuff, it will depend on the person, but it's definitely out there and available. So there's payday drinks and there's quiz nights and there's Christmas do's and things like that. And they happen within teams, but also across the council. And those who are wanting to get involved in that are welcome to get involved in that. So yes, that's, I haven't been to a payday drinks myself, but I've seen photos and I can see that people are there, they're engaged in that. So yeah, that seems to be running well.
I'm going to say Chanel's smiling, so they must be good.
Great, thank you. Louis.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I just thought I'd give my perspective as obviously an employee. I'm in Teams groups with lots of different departments, so we do chat a lot, but also I see a lot of people. I only go into the office once a week, but I tend to go on a different day each week so that I can see different people, and I do feel there is a lot of interaction when I go in between people, so I do think that is still there in the hybrid working. And I've also been a buddy for 3 new starters, so a lot of people reach out and ask them to buddy up for new starters, so you'll go in, meet them, do Teams meeting with them once a week, and introduce them to other people and just generally help them along with getting their feet in the door. So and we're also obviously, as part of the inclusion group, pushing people to have photos on their Outlook and the microlab so people recognize once they've spoken to someone in the corridor, they can go, oh, that is the person, I'll drop a quick chat to them. So yeah, just thought I'd mention those couple of bits, and also just to mention I have another meeting now, so I need to pop off, so apologies about that.
Great, no worries. Thank you very much for that. I think it was really, really useful input as well. Anthony.
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on the different digital channels that have been mentioned, because actually one of our challenges, and I've had this challenge expressed to me and didn't have an answer, so flagging it to the group is something that we need to work through. We've mentioned we've got the various Teams groups within Teams. We've got SharePoint being launched. We had a demonstration from Gavin in comms about, I think it was Yammer, but basically it's been incorporated within other stuff now. So effectively a internal social media page. You've then got WhatsApp. I've even got one member of the leadership team who seems to prefer to text me, of all things, still stuck in the 1990s. So you've got lots of different available channels, and on one of the staff briefings, one of the questions that quite legitimately got asked, and I've had it since asked to me in a one-to-one, is it's great having all of these channels, but actually can we have some direction as to which ones we're supposed to use and when? And I think that's something that we need to work through, because otherwise it can get a bit messy and different people prefer different tools, and you're then looking at 5 different screens trying to keep in contact with everyone. So streamlining that a bit might help.
Yeah, I think that's a really valid point. I mean, I can look at my work Teams chats and I can see there's my team chat, there's this particular work stream, there's a workspace over here where documents have been uploaded, then I've got individual conversations, and then there's an email thread because there's a conversation occurring in that space. So sometimes it really does help to just sort of have a little bit of guidance, because the problem with technology is that there's so much of it, and everybody is going to engage with that differently. Different people are going to have different learning styles, different communication preferences. So there might be that piece of work as well when we're thinking about engagement in a hybrid environment, about identifying and supporting people to use the tools that work best for them, but also to understand the ones that the organization has decided we are using in order to achieve this particular task. So I think that might be worth exploring, possibly through one of the engagement forums or through staff committees as well. Right, Councillor Plater.
Yeah, and just to add to that, there's obviously a vast difference between formal and informal communication, and I think there's something to think about whilst you run this exercise, in that how prescriptive you make the informal communication between council members and council staff.
Yeah, that's a good point as well. And thinking about how we loop councillors into things, because obviously we've got the councillor portal, and I would expect most casework runs through that. But there are still, obviously members will communicate with officers via email. I don't think many of them tend to use Teams. They've not referenced that as a communication tool. But if officers genuinely have a preference and a way that they want us to engage when we've got quick fire questions about things, then that would be helpful for us to know, and again, sort of hopefully help to facilitate staff and support everybody. Yes, Tom.
No, just to pop back in, on occasion I have used Teams chat, and I know a few others who have it, usually to get in touch with somebody in members services quickly if we've got a question. But if that is the way that officers are engaging with each other and it's what's being promoted, then it would certainly be worth promoting that to councillors as well, if officers are happy to receive questions from members via that means of communication.
Yeah, so I think could we go away and ask relevant officers, find out, and then push something out to all members? And again, because of how members work, I'd say push that via email and a couple of lines in MIS as well, just to make sure that the message does get through and that we're supporting everybody to communicate effectively and appropriately across the organisation. Right, does anyone have any more sort of points or comments around the discussion paper? I'm not seeing anybody indicate. I am told that we need to note this, and therefore we need to have take the general consensus of the members present that we are happy to note this. I see Councillor Plater's hand, and I've lost Councillor Strong from my screen. Let me click across the top. Yes, Councillor Strong is also happy. Excellent. Right, that brings us on to item number 7, which is discussion of topics for the next meeting. So there's a table at the end of the agenda papers for today that sets out various topics. I will open to colleagues to sort of flag any that they think that might be particularly pertinent for consideration the next time that this meeting gets together, which I think is probably going to be around are we looking at March for the next one, or a little bit sooner than that?
6th of December.
6th of December, very, very soon then. Lovely. So 6th of December, I'll allow colleagues some time to just have a look at that list and have a think and a reflect. Right. How about, Anthony's got a hand up. Yes.
I was just going to make a suggestion following up on the conversations we've had today, whether the well-being item might be a sensible one to have a discussion on.
I was potentially leaning in that direction and possibly also thinking of a linking through to financial well-being as well, given it's the run up to Christmas and also January, including Blue Monday, and what kind of support there might be for staff over the sort of typical seasonal period where you see affective disorders come into play as well. Councillor Strong.
Yeah, I think again, the comments we've had on wellbeing, that was one that I was particularly and then also I think also on the discussions, maybe this is the one in the new year, would be the guidance and use on social media.
Yeah, and I'm reminded as well that councillors have got a session on being digital citizens and support around various things, including social media as well. So there might be some pull-throughs that we can take from that session and carry over into a discussion in the new year for staff as well. Councillor Plater.
Yeah, just to say I concur with all of that. I think the wellbeing item for the next meeting is good, and I also agree with Councillor Strong about the social media for a meeting after that as well.
Great, right. So I think what we've got then is we'd like to have a discussion sort of exploring wellbeing, the support that's in place, focusing on mental health. It's a particularly topical time of year as well. There's a lot of pressure on especially families, but also those that are on their own in the run up to Christmas as well. It can be an incredibly stressful but equally lonely time. And then also we are aware that the bills start to land and hit people hard in January. And if you're already struggling with anxiety, stress, depression of any type, the the nature of the weather at this time of year and the financial pressures can really hit home and make that quite difficult. So I think what we'd like to see is the support that this authority is putting in place to help staff generally around mental health and wellbeing, but also when there are those additional pressures and pinch points. And I think as well, we should look at some of the financial link into this as well, because it just makes sense, and finances are something that can directly impact on people's mental health. And despite the way that inflation appears to be coming down at the moment, we are still in a period of massive high costs. It is hurting workers. We've seen the sort of notes as well around the pay review that are in the papers as well. So I think that it'd be negligent if we didn't marry up the wellbeing and the financial security and support piece for December. And then, yeah, the social media stuff, I think, is going to be a useful conversation, because a lot of our staff are engaging more through various social media channels now, either in a personal capacity or in a work-based capacity as well. And it's delivering some really great engagement, but we can't just do a counsellor's social media and digital citizen support session without really thinking about what kind of internal support we're providing to officers and people that work for us, whether they're contractors or direct employees as well. So if you can take those away, Rebecca, and start prepping and setting up the wellbeing for December and then the social media aspect for the new year, I think that's a positive way forward. Right. Any more comments from anybody on anything today? Is there any other business? Yes, Councillor Plater.
Thanks, Chair. I just have one piece of any other business, and that's just to raise a point. Obviously, as I'm sure we all know, there have been some pretty horrendous terrorist attacks and loss of life throughout the world over the past couple of weeks. And I just wondered, firstly, what support the council was providing for officers and members of staff who might be affected by those terrorist attacks, and secondly, whether we've reached out to those officers, reached out to officers in general to reiterate those support signposting, and to just again reiterate that that there is support there for them should they need it. Thank you.
There hasn't been anything formally done as yet, other than our general kind of support around wellbeing, but we can absolutely look at something.
Yeah, right. Thank you very much. Any other business from anyone? No? Right. In that case, thank you very much for your attendance and contributions this morning, everyone. I shall close the meeting and let you get back to your day. Thank you so much for coming. Have a great day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.